These guys survived the David Kahn era of Timberwolves basketball and live to tell about it. It's Flagrant Howls.
All right, boys, let's pop open the standings here. Let's just, in fact, would you guys mind? Got Judd here, the OG Timberwolves guy here. Judd with his 1989 Timberwolves notepad.
I survived the Jimmy Rogers era. Screw David Kahn. Jimmy Rogers, man.
Jimmy Rogers. Okay, I will say, I can't believe you uttered the name Jimmy Rogers. Who was he? The first coach or second?
Second. He replaced
second coach. Yeah. Okay, that's right. Muss into Jimmy Rogers. Jimmy Rogers' name will come up in one of my takes.
Oh my God.
Wolves takes.
Wow.
Yeah. Early 90s Timberwolves reference here. But would you guys mind if we just spent the first 15 minutes just staring silently with smiles at the NBA standings? Would the audience mind that? We'll just ogling at the standings. Timberwolves 19-5 after another victory over the Pacers. Now, they keep getting these teams without their star players. Like Halliburton, it was a back-to-back and Halliburton wasn't playing, but whatever. Just these are games that even without the star player that the Wolves would have trouble closing a lot last year and in the last 20 years, right?
Yes.
So they're currently 19-5, a half game behind Boston for the best record in the entire league. 3 games clear of the Oklahoma City Thunder, 3.5 clear of both the Mavericks and the Nuggets, 5 games clear of the Nuggets in the loss column right now. And if you're a Wolves fatalist who still isn't quite sure about this whole thing, they could still slip out of the playoff run. The Golden State Warriors are currently 8 games behind the Timberwolves overall, 9 games back in the loss column. They represent the cutoff line for the play-in, so I think we're safe.
I was going to say, what type of slump? What type of prolonged, enormous slump? You know, short of Edwards and Gobert and Towns,
don't even
all like
speak that
colliding
into
on the court by accident. But I mean, my God, I mean, this team. I'll continue to say it. This team is just flat out good.
Yeah, and by the way, here I'll give you Phil's Wolves take number 1 here on this show. And Judd, I had to go watch this game back because Declan and I were enjoying ourselves at the Hubbard holiday party on Saturday, checking the score. You were locked in with Notepad, so we're gonna trust you. Yeah. So take number 1 is smart people around the league have taken notice. And they don't have to say these things, right? Like Rick Carlisle, one of the really good coaches of the last 20 years in the NBA. And he said this is one of the best teams on the planet. These guys have really got it going here. The building is alive. The environment is way different than it used to be. I take my hat off to Tim Connolly and his operation for everything they've done. New ownership as well. Rick Carlisle.
I think that's going to keep coming. And I think that that's going to be one of the reasons why the national media is going to begin to talk more about this team, because, you know, the Rick Carlisles of the world talk to guys like Woj, right? They talk to the national broadcasters, the national print guys. And so, like, I think that this is going to be like, you can't ignore this. It's not a fluke. It's not a nice stretch where it's like, okay, yeah, but it's the Timberwolves and they're going to be. So I think what he said is going to be echoed by a lot of people. And I do think that for Wolves fans frustrated that the team is not nationally getting as much attention as they think this club should, it's coming.
It's okay. And that's okay. It doesn't.
But it's coming too. It's coming. You'll get yours. So like, it's fine for right now. But yeah, look, you cannot go into, and Phil, you've been to a bunch of games too. You can't go to Target Center right now and not feel a vibe that you occasionally would feel like in the past 4 years, right? Like for certain games, like the play-in game. Oh, it was unbelievable. Play-in game was great fun. But that's now every night. That's now like a Monday night. Like, think about that for a second. So yes, great. Rick Carlisle is saying what I think we're going to see a lot more of, which is they've done a great job. But also, again, Timberwolves fans, pat yourself on the back. You've been through hell. You've been through a lot, and you are showing out now in a huge way.
And the Wolves are currently let's see here. They're 11-1 at home. The Celtics are 14-0 at home. I'm trying to find other one-loss teams. The Bucks are 14-2. The Rockets are 11-1 at home and 2-9 on the road. So there's unbeatable
Rockets are
at home.
Interesting team. this season.
Well, they're young, they're immature, but they've got the coach in place,
Right.
they've got talent. So it does make sense that young, immature, but well coached would dial in at home, but maybe lose some focus on the road.
Sure.
But yeah, I think too, because I have heard these discussions on some of the national podcasts and national like TV shows that talk NBA. And there's a lot of the same sort of, okay, we still think the Nuggets are the team to knock off in the West. And that's fair, by the way. Even though the Nuggets are 5 games back in the loss column from the Timberwolves, 3.5 back, they're going to be there. They still have the best player on the planet. So seeding-wise, they might not be the team that you have to run through in the West. But I think it's fair to say, okay, who's going to knock off the Nuggets? But those discussions largely have not included the Timberwolves. But if you start to go through and say, okay, who really is going to challenge the Nuggets in a 7-game series? It ain't the current version of the Warriors. In fact, they wouldn't even be in the play-in right now.
Yeah, they're a mess.
The Phoenix Suns are really interesting at full strength, but they're not at full strength often enough to really know what that whole thing looks like. I also worry about their depth coming off the bench, but like Bradley Beal is supposed to be the third guy, and he can't stay on the court. I mean, I'd still take Devin Booker and Kevin Durant against almost anyone in a 7-game series to make it competitive, but right now they are the 10 seed in the Western Conference. So they'd have to go through 2 rounds of play-in just to get in. And then if they did that, they would potentially face the Timberwolves in the first round.
You know, though, how these national talking heads work on ESPN and everything else, especially if the Warriors do get through the play-in and it's a 1-8. There's going to be people picking the Warriors and calling the Wolves a fraudulent 1 seed.
Yeah.
Because of the Wolves not ever being there and because of the Warriors still having their core, even though they're aging. Like, you know that if that matches up, which it very well could, like the Wolves could play the Warriors in a first-round playoff series, you're going to get a good amount of talking heads saying the Warriors will win that series.
Yeah. Another team, too, like the Pelicans, again, when and if Zion is healthy and playing and they've got their full allotment, that's one of the deepest teams in the NBA. They're currently the 7 seed. They're in the play-in. So there's a lot of time left, and the landscape's going to change. There's going to be trades, but I think it's interesting to note that the Pelicans and the Suns are 2 of the teams that I would be looking to not have to deal with. And some of these teams might just stumble in the play-in, or one might get knocked out by the other or something. So, and the Warriors aren't even in it right now. Take number 2 for you. This remains, as proven again on Saturday, the best situation Karl-Anthony Towns could be in, maybe in the league. We've talked about, and we've been leading the trade conversations throughout the last couple of years at times on this show, so I will own that. But
right.
Boy, is there a way you could get him to the Knicks, to Brooklyn? We even talked like Portland, and Scoot Henderson has been pretty he had a pretty good game a couple nights ago, but like pretty underwhelming, can't really shoot yet. Mm-hmm. So all these different, like, what situation could he find himself in? I mean, what's he going to be? Is he going to be the lead guy on like a 30-win team and put up a bunch of numbers? Or can he put up a bunch of numbers as he put it, by the way, in a quote, as one of the planets and not the sun? I love the way that Kat put this. This is from Dane Moore. I asked Karl-Anthony Towns about shooting 25 shots tonight and how that used to be something he was asked to do often, but not as much anymore. He scored 40 points. Just what that dynamic shifting has been like for him. Kat said he's now not the sun, but one of the planets. Kat continued to say, we've got a lot of great players in here, and my job is to figure out how to obviously be aggressive and maximize my talents for the team, but also in those talents, how can I make everybody else better? So the Wolves, over the past couple of years, have taken a supermax contract guy who, from an ego standpoint, had been like the face and the savior of the franchise, or at least looked at that way for many years. And they have somehow, with egos fully removed, worked out a situation where he can be one of the planets, as he put it, and not the sun. And it's not like an uncomfortable situation. He's kind of loving it. We've talked about Kevin Love, it was determined by the organization, a decade ago. He's paid, he's a max guy, but he's not like the leader of a team that is going to go deep in the Western Conference playoffs. So they decided, well, there's no way. Once we've decided that, his ego got bruised and he got offended, and then he started to be sullen Kevin Love, and he stopped smiling in media sessions and stuff, and he had to go because it was like, oh, they don't think of me as the leader of a franchise, so I have to go somewhere else and be the third guy. Cat is basically the third guy. Gobert, number 1 on defense. Ant, number 1, face of the franchise, number 1 offensive option most nights. He's basically the third guy here, and he seems to love it, and it's working perfectly for them. So bravo for pulling this thing off. The Timberwolves did it.
So I ran into on X this weekend, I ran into the Cat defenders, the Cat fans.
Well, he deserves it, dude. Like, he's awesome this season.
No. I'm talking about the ones who are like, because I tweeted exactly what you just said out. I said, I think after that Boston game, something changed. This guy's been great. He's kept that Boston game, he was a non-factor. He pouted, he whined, he did all the crap that I was like, I can't take this. Ever since then, complete credit to Cat. It's been unbelievable. He's fit in perfectly. And I tweeted something changed after that, and I think it's interesting. And I got back, it's you who changed. He's never been any different. It's you who has decided that he's different, but he's always been the same guy. He has always been in with Ant, and he's always been a great teammate, and blah, blah, blah. And the reality is that's just not true. That's just not true. And he deserves, just like Cousins did when O'Connell came in and Kirk really changed as far as I thought his actions. And you know what? The similarities between Kirk and Cat as far as like output is interesting, because to me, it's an apples to apples comparison, because Kirk Cousins, when we were down on Kirk, was still putting up good stats. And a lot of times Cat was too, but you watched the games and you said, what are you really doing to benefit your team? And every night now, Karl-Anthony Towns is doing positive things. I don't see him moaning and complaining. If he does complain, it's quick. Yeah, this guy deserves a boatload of credit, but don't try to convince anybody that he has not changed. He has changed for the better. And I would argue that because he's changed, my feeling about this team has also changed greatly.
Well,
gone from being, what are you going to do with Cat, to, oh my God, no, he is part of the puzzle. He's part of the solution.
Yeah, I would say a couple things on this. So there's the pre-Gobert version of Cat, where he was largely playing the 5. They didn't have loaded teams. They had a good team a couple of years ago where they did win, whatever it was, 44, 46 games, and they go to the play-in, the Pat Bev year, and he played 74 games. He was very productive offensively. Anecdotally, a lot more complaining and some of that stuff that kind of derailed games. Certainly, like in the postseason, there were some derailments against Memphis. So I would say, I guess if you're watching him since the Boston game and you don't think there's been just a more professional and focused approach compared to it, and he wasn't like that every night where he would be kind of spastic and whatever, but let me go through, like, how is he different? He's playing the same amount of minutes exactly, 33 minutes a game, compared to last year, okay? Now, last year, that's a tough lift because he's being asked to play a different position with Gobert on the court. He's being asked to take a step down in sort of like stature in the organization. Then he misses the 50-plus games with an injury, so he should be better this year than last year. But just to illustrate it, same amount of minutes. His scoring is up 2 points a game. His fouls are way down by a half a foul per game, which that's significant. It's actually his lowest fouls per game total since 2019. So he has limited the fouls. His rebounding is up. His effective field goal percentage is up. His three-point percentage is the highest of his career. It's up 7 percentage points from last year. His overall field goal percentage is up. His win share value is way up. His defensive value is way up. So some of it, too, is like you got a bunch of good players around you. You got Mike Conley, he's a great organizer, and you can kind of focus on things that help fill those gaps. So some of it's system, some of it's culture, some of it's him just dialing it in and being a much better player.
To put it in its simplest terms, he's not fighting it, though, and that's what I absolutely love. It felt like previously he was fighting the role a bit, because the thing about it that nobody's ever disagreed or I think argued about is this. The dude's talent is amazing. Like, he is an amazing, and that's the frustrating thing. We don't get down on guys who aren't talented, and then it's like, well, where's the talent? Well, it's just not there, right? What was frustrating about Karl previously is this guy had all of these things going for him. 3-point shooting, ability to play the 5, just all of this stuff. And he was fighting it. It felt like there were demons that didn't need to be there. And now they're gone, and he fits in perfectly. I think through that Boston game, he was the the piece of the puzzle that you can't get to bleep and fit.
That's what it felt like that night. Yeah.
And you're trying to put that puzzle, and it's like, this should fit.
Yeah.
Since then, it's been great.
But the thing is, like, and this was always the best case scenario is, man, if you could get that piece to fit somehow, it's literally a 7-foot unicorn who can bomb threes like Steph Curry in terms of percentage. He can rebound, he can pass, he can dribble drive, he can do all these crazy things. And man, if he can hold his own defensively, which he is, now there's a whole salary cap, luxury tax thing to figure out in about 6 or 7 months from now. That seemed like an obvious thing 2 or 3 months ago. It was, well, they're just going to trade Cat. But if they stay as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference and he is this version that fits this well with this puzzle, it's a champagne problem, as a very expensive champagne problem, as Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the Vikings GM, would say.
Might need some champagne to get through that problem.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Switch to there.
This guy. Little Juno. Okay, take number 3. I'm going to tee you up for this one because I know you've got some third quarter stuff. But last year in the third quarter, the Timberwolves ranked 22nd in the NBA in net margin. So they were outscored in the third quarter. They were 21st in net margin. This year, second in the NBA. It's a net margin turnaround of 5.5 points per third quarter. The only team better in the third quarter has been the Philadelphia 76ers. So they would go from, all right, Wolves have a nice little lead at halftime here. Come on out, let's start strong. 12-0 run. And now they're, now the game's tied. Or now they're up by 15. Now they're down by 7 going into the fourth quarter. It felt like that happened all the time. But they are one of the best third quarter teams in the NBA, Judd.
Yes, and on Saturday they outscored the Pacers in the third 38-23. May I submit a nickname for these Wolves?
Please.
The Daggermeisters. Because what they're coming out and doing in the third quarter is they are daggering their foe. They are literally coming out, and you know what? NBA game flows are sort of weird. Like, yes, it can be a bad team against a good team, and it can be close at the half, and you're not shocked by it. Like, that's not they should be up by 40 or something like that. No. But they are the Daggermeisters, because what they are doing too now is they are coming out in the third, and they are taking away, and this is one of the most important things in sports, they are taking away their opponent's will to win. They are basically saying, bleep you. And that's one thing we're not talking about enough. So, like, when we talk about NBA teams, I think the Timberwolves, what they've shown here, you guys, they are mentally really tough, which they've never been. I mean, they have not been that way in a long time.
No.
But, like, they are, and that's where Cat fitting in helps, because I think Cat alone is not really mentally tough, but he's almost building off the power of his teammates now. And Ant, mentally tough. Gobert, the way he plays is tough. Like, when people are afraid to try to drive, you are tough. You get street cred for that. When he can play, Jaden McDaniels, I think, is a beast. Like, I think he is an SOB to play against. I think one thing, and the third quarter success is indicative of this, the Daggermeister philosophy and lifestyle is to be mentally tough and to take away the will of your opponent to continue competing.
Yeah, and so I like the Daggermeisters. It also leads to, if you have a lead at halftime and you can create more separation in the third quarter, guess what? It gives your starting players a chance to kind of take it easy in the fourth. You could rest up. You don't have to be in these fights every single night. I would call those Garza games. We want to see more Garza games.
Garza games, I love that.
And so far this season, the Wolves have had 5 Garza games out of so they're 19-5, right? So their Garza game rate is about 1 in every 5.
Yep.
That's a good Garza game. If Garza can get in 20 games, it means you are far enough ahead at the end for him to come in for 3 minutes and just do his Luka Garza.
The Garza
thing.
stat. The Garza game stat.
Yep. I mean, that's a pretty good rate. I would say 1 in every 5 games, let your starters take a load off a little early, put a towel around their head, towel on their knees, ice up.
Gobert especially.
Yep.
That's a nice one.
Get him off his feet.
I like it.
I have one more take for you that also involves some trivia. Okay, after we shout out our friends at Sound Story here. So if you are procrastinating, and my goodness, it is December 18th today. You might not even be able to get your gifts shipped to you in time. So you're looking for a great gift idea. Let me introduce you to Sound Story. So, for example, my grandfather passed away 15 years before I was born. He fought in World War II. He played football at Notre Dame. He pitched once against Satchel Paige in a semi-professional baseball. Like all these crazy life stories. And he died before I was born. I never heard his voice, never heard him tell these stories. That's where Sound Story comes in. It's like a podcast in which the guest is one of the most important people in your life, capturing their story in professional studio quality audio and or video with a professional interviewer. Or me. I'm also listed on the professional interviewer section of the Minneapolis mysoundstory.com. Starting at $3.99, but you can get 10% off a gift certificate for Sound Story at mysoundstory.com, promo code PURPLE. That's mysoundstory.com, promo code PURPLE. Sound Story for you, for them, forever. Let's also talk about Summit Orthopedics here, gentlemen. So Summit Orthopedics is here to help you with any type of pain you're dealing with. Could be back pain, neck, maybe you're on the injured list or something. You twisted your ankle. I don't know. No referrals are needed at Summit Orthopedics. They offer same-day appointments. If you're really hurting, they also offer walk-in orthopedic urgent care 7 days a week starting at 8 a.m. 25 locations in the Twin Cities and Greater Minnesota. You can learn more at summitortho.com. That's summitortho.com. Okay. Here's the fourth take. Phil's Wolves takes today, accompanied by Judd's takes from Saturday night because Declan and I were enjoying ourselves.
Bunch of drinks in.
Yeah. The Timberwolves, it's more of a fact than a take, but the Timberwolves have already matched or surpassed their season win totals for 6 different years in franchise history. We are halfway through December.
All right.
We aren't even to the Christmas games.
Right.
And there have been 6 different Wolves teams in franchise history that had 19 wins or fewer. And the latest team that the Wolves passed on that list, thanks for Kyle for pointing this out, Kyle Taggy on Twitter. The 1992-1993 Timberwolves were a 19-63 dumpster fire disaster.
My guy.
Yeah, these Wolves would have to lose 58 consecutive games to finish the season to equal that 19-63 record. Coached by Jimmy Rogers, we're going to I'm assuming Declan probably doesn't know much about the 92-93 Wolves, but you can accompany Judd on this trivia venture if you'd like to.
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you some questions. No, let's do it this way. Can you name who took over for Jimmy Rogers as coach? And then how many players can you name on that 92-93 Timberwolves team?
I think Sidney Lowe did.
Sidney Lowe took over. Look at this guy. Nice work. North Carolina State's Sidney Lowe, right?
Yep. And then
wasn't he on the Jim Valvano team that?
Yes.
Pretty sure he was.
He was on the team that beat Houston, and then, if I'm not mistaken, he got the full-time job.
Nice.
And
he
then
did for a couple years.
It might have been Bill Blair. Bill Blair after him. Bill Blair was great.
And then Flip.
Just a salty SOB.
So there were 15 Wolves that played at least a game in 1992-93. I don't expect you to name anywhere near all 15, but can you name a handful?
Was Felton Spencer on that team?
71 games. 4.5 rebounds. 4 points, 4.5 rebounds for Felton Spencer.
92-93. Was Pooh still around? Pooh Richardson?
Pooh Richardson had just departed. He was not on this team.
When did Shaq get drafted?
My answer to that will give you the answer, right? The year before.
The year before.
Yeah.
So
Leitner,
yeah. Christian Leitner, right? Would be on that team.
Felton Spencer was on that team. So was Luke Longley still around, or had he gone the Bulls?
Luke Longley?
Because he was traded to the
Bulls.
Bulls.
Luke Longley?
Yeah, because he was traded to the Bulls for Stacey King, who's now the analyst, if I'm not mistaken, on Bulls games. Okay, backcourt. So
Luke Longley started 25 games. Felton Spencer started 48 games that year.
Wow. So who was the so 92-93, Pooh was gone. Who was the point guard? I feel like that's Sam Mitchell.
Sam Mitchell was not on this team.
He was not?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought he was still around. Okay, then that might answer part of my question. Although
was he with Indiana at this time?
This feels early. Michael Thompson?
Michael Thompson. Oh, you're thinking of Michael Williams, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to give you that one. Michael Thompson
Williams.
was
Okay,
Gopher who played for the Lakers.
So was Sam Mitchell traded to the Pacers in the Michael Williams trade?
Let's look this up here.
And Michael was one of the originators in this state of the plantar fasciitis rage.
Oh, okay. So yeah, this was Sam's first year in Indiana. Then
was
he
he
3 years and came back.
And was he in that trade? Does it say?
Yeah,
with his trade history.
Basketball Reference coming through here. So it was Sam Mitchell and Pooh Richardson to the Pacers for Michael Williams and another player that was on this team and started 75 games. Is the third leading scorer on this team. Came from that Pacers trade.
Third leading scorer.
This is deep cut. There's one pretty obvious one that you're missing, I would say.
Okay.
And then this other guy that I'm referencing is, you'll be like, oh, but he's very prominent.
Okay, so hold on a second. So you got Leitner, we got Michael Williams, we've got Longley.
Yeah, Spencer.
Felton Spencer. That's pretty good so far, Dex. All right.
This is really good. Yeah, there's not a ton of household names on this 92-93 19-win Timberwolves team.
Okay, I'm curious if this guy was still around. Now, he might have been gone because he was on Thurl Bailey.
Wow.
Good Lord. This is a class for me.
They got him for the Jazz.
Is impressive.
Mm-hmm. Thurl was great.
He was a really good player for the Jazz in the 80s.
Dude, the night of the snowstorm, I made Dawn go to the Jazz Wolves home opener. We got stuck. 394 was under construction.
Climbing out of your car.
My caravan literally got stuck going up a hill. Dawn was freaking out. I had to gun it like 3 times to get back up the hill. And that game was like me and 25 of my closest friends. That place was empty.
Yeah. That's
and Thurl Bailey, as I recall, started that game.
Bailey.
So am I missing one obvious one still?
I would say I didn't even count Thurl Bailey as an obvious one. You just pulled that one. That was incredible.
Okay.
I'll give you like 60 more seconds.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Or 30 more seconds maybe. Because we got to record a twin show too.
Is Tony Campbell still there?
No Tony Campbell on this one. So Doug West was their leading scorer, 19 points a game.
I bought him a drink once. Or no, my friend did at the Pacific Club. Blew us off completely. My buddy.
What? Doug West blew you off?
At the Pacific Club, we saw Doug West. And at that time, the Pacific Club was all the rage.
Where was the Pacific Club?
It was on the corner of Hennepin at that brown sort of stone building on the corner, right down from Lions Pub. There's on the corner right there. There's a building. It's been a bunch of different things. It became a different club where I think Warren Moon went a ton, but Pacific Club was like the OG, as I recall. We saw Doug West, bought him a drink, and we're like, "Oh, Doug West will talk to us." Of course, he's
like, "No, get out of my face."
He's like, "Yeah, I'm a National Basketball Association player, and you guys are nothing."
And Chuck Person was the other.
Oh, I wouldn't have got Chuck. I forgot about Chuck Person. Chuck Person, who once got hurt. I'm not joking. He hurt his back one time. I think it was on takeoff. His plane seat came loose and he like fell backwards or something.
What?
That's terrifying.
Google the story.
That's terrifying.
Or it was broken and he didn't tell him.
Wow.
He basically, the rifleman hurt his back because of a plane seat.
Chuck Person, he was a pretty big guy too. He was like one of the, I would say one of the early like big men sniper shooters.
Yep, hell of a shooter.
He was like a power forward shooter.
The rifleman, yeah.
So there it is. All right, wow, Judd just
Doug West
dominating that 1992-93 Wolves trivia here. If you guys could give Flagrant Howls a 5-star rating and a positive review on Apple and Spotify, you can help us keep growing this awesome community of Timberwolves fans who deserve this 19-5 start. We'll see you guys, Kyle, back tomorrow, and we'll see you then here on Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.